It was so quiet. I already talked to Debbie about this, but Doug and Bill, just for your benefit,
Yes.
if you haven't gone and tried to watch something yet on CiviClerk, you should go and try to watch it. And then the importance of speaking directly into the microphone
Yeah.
becomes very, very evident if you try to listen to a recording.
Yeah, Rachel reminds me of that. I'm gonna make sure. I suppose perhaps Frank and I may be the biggest.
So I have a little sign here that says remind speakers. Do you have one of those on your name, Peg? It should say.
Oh,
So we need one of these for Bill, Debbie, but what it needs to say to him is, Bill, speak into the mic.
I don't know where he's so focused though when he's talking to you guys, I don't know that he is.
I will.
Otherwise, we'll just permanently place his microphone right next to him where he can't move it.
We need what they call the floor director,
Yes.
that, you know, goes,
Yeah. So we have to put Jane on payroll to be that person for us.
I find myself every now and then going like that, of course, nobody knows.
Oh.
Okay, are we ready? Okay. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, August 21, 2024, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website. Live stream is also available at tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute his phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12:00 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12:00 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone signed up or registered online for public comment?
We do not.
None today, thank you. So we'll call again the meeting to order on Tuesday, August 21. Welcome, everyone, and I don't see anyone in the room who needs to sign the guest list, so we'll say there's no one with us this morning. We'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask our legal counsel, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I sure will. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. I'll ask again if there's anyone who would like to address the board. Don't see anyone in the room, nor anyone online, so I'll ask again, Deb, has anyone indicated he or she wishes to address the board?
They have not.
Nothing, all right, thank you. So we'll go to non-agenda items. We have one unscheduled. This is consideration of a letter of support for the appointment of Clatsop County Commissioner Mark Kulja, did I say that correctly, to the State of Oregon Ocean Policy Advisory Council, otherwise known as OPAC, to represent Lincoln, Tillamook, and Clatsop counties. And I will talk a little bit about this. This organization, which is known as the Ocean, let's see, get it right here, Ocean Policy Advisory Committee. See if I've got that. Yes.
Council.
Yeah, council, I beg your pardon. Okay, this is a group that is formed by statute and consists of quite a number of people, including representatives from 3 counties on the north end, another 3 or 4 in the central part of the state. It has to do also with a number of commercial interests, both charter and fishing interests. And their duty is to advise the state of Oregon. And there are also a number of state agencies that are part of this, so it's a large group. Their charge is to advise the state of Oregon on matters related to the territorial sea and also to the other matters even beyond that. I serve on a group known as OCZMA, Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association, which also is a bit of an appendage to this. It's a different group, a different set of people, but they also work with what's going on in the ocean. And so we have a vacancy for the 3 northern counties, Lincoln, Tillamook, and Clatsop, and this matter before us today is to appoint a current sitting commissioner in Clatsop County to that organization. And since it is statutory, I think it needs to be done sooner than later, and so that is what is before us today. So I will ask Commissioner, do you have any comments or questions?
No questions. I think this is a committee that, in fact, Commissioner Yamamoto may have served on in the past in our stead. So I think it's great that Clatsop County will take a turn in the rotation of representing our region. What happens in our oceans is obviously very, very crucial to our economies, to our water, to all of the things that are important to us. So I appreciate that Commissioner Mark Cuela is willing to serve.
Okay, thank you. In that case, then, would consider a motion.
Mr. Chair, in consideration of a letter of support for the appointment of Clatsop County Commissioner Mark Cuela to the State of Oregon Ocean Policy Advisory Council, OPAC, to represent Lincoln, Tillamook, and Clatsop counties, I move approval.
And I will second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Motion carries. Okay, now we'll go down to legislative administrative item number 5. Consideration of an amendment number 1, grant agreement number JRP 23-26 with the State of Oregon Criminal Justice Commission Justice Reinvestment Program. And that would be Lieutenant Seom, if she's online, and indeed she is. So Lieutenant, go right ahead.
Morning, Commissioners. So for consideration, this is amendment number 1 to our Criminal Justice Commission Justice Reinvestment Grant. We applied for some additional funds and were awarded about $66,000 more with this, and then an additional about $7,600 that would go to Victim Services, which is Tides of Change. So our original grant amount that we received from Criminal Justice Commission for Justice Reinvestment was $260,724. And this amendment now reflects that our overall grant is an awarded amount of $334,636. The additional funds, we just went and applied to some of the already existing programs. But the sum of, or bulk of the money that we were awarded in this amendment or this supplemental funding is going to go to Circuit Court to assist with their pretrial release program for electronic monitoring. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No questions, really, just as always, comments related to the work that's done through our Criminal Justice Reinvestment Act program dollars, which are really the opportunity to help folks who find themselves in the criminal justice system have a better outcome. You know, this is the work that, Ani, you and your staff do so tirelessly to help folks increase their skills, increase their opportunities, so that when they are released, they are able to step into a job and a life and participate and not reoffend. So just my greatest thanks, as always, for the work you do with the dollars that we receive. And certainly having more dollars is always a good thing. More services are helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. My only question would be, is this recent money in line with previous expenditure levels? In other words, are we on essentially the same budget?
The same budget for, so I
Meaning
need
for
to
the-
talk,
Well, you said there was additional funds coming in, so is this in addition to, or are we getting more than previous, or is this something that's basically on the same line?
yeah, so we are getting more than previous, so I'll have to talk to our treasurer and see if we need to do a budget modification. It is additional than what was presented in the current fiscal year budget. This grant goes from, this grant starts July 1 of 2020. I'm trying to think here. Hold on, because I got so many grants. Okay. It started back July 1, 2024. It goes till December 31st, 2025. So it exceeds into even an additional fiscal year, if that makes sense. It kind of overlaps.
Yes, 18 months, and it sounds
Mhm.
like, yes, crossing into another fiscal period.
I apologize. My camera's not wanting
Okay.
to work.
Well, I think we have the gist of it then. It's additional money. It'll cross into 2 fiscal periods, and there may or may not be some budgetary adjustments that are necessary, but I certainly support it as well. Anything else? Commissioner?
Sean has popped on camera.
Oh,
I don't know
Sean,
if you
go
want to
ahead.
give her a chance to comment.
Yes, Sean, I didn't see you. Please go ahead.
That's okay. Good morning, commissioners. It'll depend. I haven't had a chance to look at it. It's been kind of hectic in my office. We've been short-staffed and other stuff going on. So it'll depend on if it's more than 10%. If it's not more than 10% of her total budget, then it does not need to come before the budget committee. So I will take a look at that in the next week or so, and as time allows, and let Ani know.
All right, thank you. Well, I believe we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chair, in consideration of amendment number 1, grant agreement number JRP-23-26 with the State of Oregon Criminal Justice Commission Justice Reinvestment Program, I move approval.
And I will second. Any additional questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Ani.
Thanks,
All right,
commissioners.
On the numbers 6, 7, and 8 are essentially similar, although there appears to be 2 different firms. So Justin, are you on this morning? I see your initials there. You must be. There he is. Good morning. Would you?
Morning, Commissioners.
Why don't we speak to all 3, but then we'll consider them separately as we move forward.
Yeah, Commissioner Olson, I think you're correct there. The first one is, I guess we could parse out the first one. The second 2 are very similar. So we can dive into all 3 and then, come back and vote on them individually. So the first contract before you for consideration is a contract for general services between the county and Recology of Western Oregon for hauling of solid waste, yard debris, and other materials from the Manzanita transfer station to the Tillamook transfer station. So Recology's been serving North County, I think for just over 10 years now. They've been doing a great job hauling our materials from Manzanita to Tillamook. This will just reestablish our services agreement and rates for up to 5 years. There was a little bit of delay in finalizing this agreement between Recology and Tillamook County. As I got into budget season, Recology was still working through some of their cyber hack and getting back on track from that. So a slight gap in the contract, a little delay in getting this signed, but looking forward to getting back in contract with them and continue services for up to the next 5 years. Happy to answer any questions if you do have any.
Questions?
No questions, just a couple of comments. I know we had Recology join us not long ago for a meeting. I think we were talking about recycling services and different pieces of it. And I think it was right after their cyber attack. And what was amazing to all of us is that no one knew they'd had a cyber attack. You know, services went on as regular. Their drivers knew where to go, minus having their computer systems up and running. And it just really spoke to the resiliency of the organization at Recology, and gave us a chance to explore a little further kind of their services and their business model. Just sounds like a really good company, and I'm pleased that we're able to contract with them in North County, and it sounds like services are well provided. So I'm in support.
As am I on that one. That, as I recall, they did have a computer problem, and which is not unheard of these days. And they've worked through that, and so they're good to go. So go ahead and speak to the other two, if you would.
Sure, Commissioners, the other agreements before you are for a professional services agreement between Tillamook County and Great West Engineering Services. One agreement is for the Manzanita Transfer Station, one is for the Pacific City project. So circling back on these are our capital improvement projects that my predecessor had been working on, and we're carrying the torch forward to revamp infrastructure, get a recycling building down in Pacific City, and shore up some infrastructure in the Manzanita, specifically the east wall, which is a failing timber wall. So again, with COVID, we saw surges in garbage coming in. We're seeing that taper off a little bit, but to supply recycling and garbage services for Tillamook County residents for the next 20, 30 years, we're hoping to do this infrastructure upgrade. And again, with the new recycling law coming on board, we're going to need more capacity to store items as well. So this is just reinforcing our existing infrastructure, getting us prepared for the future. Both contracts are just under $100,000, and this is projected by the engineering firm to get us through the next fiscal year. And this will complete most of our design elements for both projects. And funding for each of these is going to be covered under a combination of, we have an overflow stormwater grant from the state DEQ. That money is forgivable grant money that we can use for any stormwater related infrastructure. And then once that money runs out, we have about $300,000 for each site there. And then we have some loans from the state as well, which are 50% forgivable, that will cover construction and any other design costs moving forward. So this is all in the new fiscal year budget. We've secured funding outside of kind of the general funds for solid waste, which is outside the county's general fund. But yeah, looking forward to get these rolling and hoping to break ground probably maybe beginning of 2025 and get things rolling beginning of next year. So happy to answer any questions if you do have any, commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I don't. I was going to ask you to kind of review the funding of this work, and you've done all that. So thank you very much. I think that was clear and helpful, and excited to get the capital projects complete.
Yeah.
Thank you. My only question is related, but not on the actual contracts before us. Any late breaking news on the landfill in Corvallis that is used?
I have had some developments, Commissioner Olson. I appreciate you checking in with me that on a regular basis, but I hopped on a call with Benton County and an individual from Clatsop County, I believe. So they're starting a kind of informal, impromptu group of rural counties who do rely on the Coffin Butte landfill. And they're just looking to do some fact gathering, put our heads together, and come up with some ideas for how we're going to navigate the future going forward with that landfill eventually closing. And we're looking to, put our heads together and work smarter, not harder, to come to a resolution, or at least a couple different potential options for dealing with that landfill closure. So as I mentioned in the past, Commissioner, was hoping to turn my attention here moving forward, and I've had a couple meetings, and we'll continue to have that conversation. And once we have a more kind of concrete plan or some real steps forward, we'll obviously share that with the community and the commissioners to discuss.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion, and let's do each one separately for the record.
Of course. Mr. Chair, in consideration of a contract for general services for Recology Western Oregon for the hauling of municipal solid waste and yard debris and other materials from the Manzanita Transfer Station to the Tillamook Transfer Station, I move approval.
And I will second. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, number 7.
Mr. Chair, in consideration of a professional services agreement with Great West Engineering for the Manzanita Transfer Station East Wall Improvements Project, I move approval.
I will second. Any further questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Motion carries. And finally, number 8.
Mr. Chair, in consideration of a professional services agreement with Great West Engineering for the Pacific City Transfer Station Improvements Project, I move approval.
And I will second. So I'll ask again, any further questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Motion carries. Okay, thank you, Justin.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, down on item number 9, consideration of a contract for goods with Tillamook Motor Company Incorporated for the vehicle purchase of a 2024 Ford F-250 pickup truck for the Communications Department. Sean Blanchard, our treasurer, will speak to this item.
And I can't see the room, so I don't know if Ruben was also going to be there from communications. A couple of years ago, the communications department received a hand-me-down vehicle from the sheriff's office. It was their state forest vehicle that they had used. I looked back since 2020, we have put in almost $12,000 just alone at Tillamook Motors into this vehicle. It has been requested a few times during the budget process to replace this vehicle. And in this past fiscal year, for the fiscal year 24-25 budget year, it was approved by the budget committee and the commissioners for Ruben to be able to replace the vehicle so he's not having to fix it on a daily basis, and he can go into some of the stuff that he has had to do to keep it running and safe on the road, sort of.
Well, Ruben, as it turns out, is sitting before us. He just entered the room, and I will say for my part on this, I'm the liaison to that group, and we have 12 radio towers, and we'll have 13 when our bond measure passes. And he goes and services them, and some of them are rather remote with no commercial power and snow and other things. So I'll ask Ruben, would you elaborate a little bit on this request for a new truck?
Oh, absolutely, Commissioner. I would like to say that, the vehicle does, when it's running, get me to the sites. But I have had to work on it dozens of times. I've had to replace the fans, the electronics. The last ignition coil number 8 was up under the firewall, so that means bruised ribs for about a week as you're laying on the engine. It has died on me a number of times. Last one that actually died on the road was on Foss, right there on the Miami, and had to get it running again. But it's had a hard life, 170,000 approximate miles of off-road use, and it's showing it.
Well, there's another thing I'd like you to speak to the fact that you frequently are going to these remote sites by yourself.
Absolutely. I am.
Have a vehicle that is, let's say, less than dependable. Could you speak to that just a bit?
Well, sure. I take all my tools with me. I have had to do self-rescue when last avalanche tried to push me off the road at mile marker 7 there on Diamond Mill. Luckily, we do have some equipment to take care of ourselves. But when it breaks down, it's just myself working on it. Flat tire yesterday. It's one of those things. Luckily, I have enough tools that I can take care of just getting it up and running, so I can get it down to get a tire swapped. But when it comes to the vehicle itself, outside of what limited equipment I carry with me, it doesn't have to go to a Ford garage, if you will. A few overheats, climbing the mountain, but we did have some heat during the July 4th weekend. It's not to be expected, I suppose. Unexpected.
So how about the dash going out where everything goes blank and you have nothing to tell you how fast you're going?
Yeah, I was on the CB radio the other morning on High 111 asking the trucker behind me how fast I was going because I really didn't know. The dash doesn't work. Luckily, you get a feel for the hum of the tires on the road, and I was doing about 55 when I slammed the dash with my hand, and it came back to life just as I passed the trooper. So I was good. But just something I learned the other day when the dash light, when the console goes dark and the truck electronics turn off, that means no windows work. And something new I just also learned was the radios don't go into sense mode to turn off. And so that means in the morning I had to jump it pretty much to get it started again. Just, it's a hard life. It's had a hard life.
Well, thank you, Ruben, Commissioner.
Ruben, I don't know if we knew when we hired you that we were hiring both an auto mechanic and a radio guy, but the good news is apparently that we did hire both. So we appreciate the multitude of skills that you bring to the position. That said, you shouldn't need to use both of those sets of skills. We did hire you for the radio maintenance, not for truck mechanic. So, Sean, my only question is this truck ready to go? I know that we've had a lot of trouble just with supply chain over the last few years. Do we have one ready to pick up?
It is sitting on Ford's lot. I will go down today and sign the paperwork and then get the paperwork processed to pay for it on next week's check run.
Perfect.
And then Ruben can pick it up as soon as I sign for it.
Perfect. And then is there any additional outfitting that happens with this truck because it is set up for so much off-road travel and so forth? And is that something else that will take time and money that we're not talking about today?
We excuse me. We do have budgeted funds for Ruben to upfit the vehicle. Timeline-wise, that would be up to Ruben how long it's going to take him to upfit it.
Because that's part of his mechanic duties as well. Other duties as a sign upfitting your own rig. Can you talk a little bit about what that might look like? What do we do to your rig to upfit it and make it, safer and better for you out there?
So the nice thing is I had the opportunity to build it with some Ford warranty. So like the winch comes from Ford, so that's warranted for the life of the winch. It's not something that you can do for aftermarket. A lot of everything was built for off-road use, 10-ply tires, skid plates, everything, inverters so that I have power on site. So we don't have to do anything aftermarket. Can run the skill saw if I need to do so when I'm mending the fence up there on Hebo. But I still need to put a canopy because of the amount of equipment that I have on it. A contractor style canopy that will afford me toolboxes on the sides for access, and then maintaining an open back, and probably a contractor grade rack so that I can haul those 21-foot antennas up to the site, because most 8-foot pickups don't have a bed big enough for that. And then also keeping the back as open as much as possible so that we can haul lumber and other equipment up to the sites, which is short of hauling a trailer up to a remote mountaintop like T-Point, where good luck turning it around.
Right.
That's pretty much what I've stuck with right now, but there will be some additional additions. The nice thing is the shop has a lot of the radio stuff ready to go. As soon as it shows up, we can get those installed. Most of the tools, like I carry right now, are in the back seat for electronic work, working on the repeaters themselves, antennas. It's mostly the mechanic tools that are in the back, chainsaws, drills, tool socket sets, everything that a boy needs.
Thank you. I'm not sure that people realize what goes into radio maintenance, that it really is all of those things you just described. It is every different kind of maintenance work, from, as you said, building a fence to doing the actual electronics of the radios and everything in between. So this is a vehicle that we need to have. It's time for a new one. It needs to be properly outfitted so you can do your job. Thank you.
Thank you. My only comment is I've heard over the years, not necessarily when my position here at the county, but being on other boards and around it, government seems to buy a lot of vehicles, and they're usually shiny and new and really looking pretty good. And I guess I would tell the people listening and tuning in today, that's not the case with Tillamook County. We basically drive until they quit, and you just heard. And the second part of that is we hire people to run the county. And they do various jobs of all sorts. And this job that Ruben does, it requires him to go out into basically what I would, the edge of the wilderness. And he goes alone. And to be up there, maybe in the dark of night in a snowstorm, when a critical radio tower or equipment has malfunctioned, he goes up there, and I think you've been up there after hours, a time or two. And to not have a reliable vehicle and the proper equipment, I think, is wrong. And so I think this is a step forward to correct that and get a vehicle that's dependable, that can be used for a number of years and is safe. So I'm absolutely in support of this, and I think it probably should have been done a few years ago, but nonetheless, it's getting done today. And as Commissioner Scar pointed out, there were supply problems there in the supply chain for a number of years. I know of instances where it took 36 months to get a vehicle, and then maybe even longer to get some of the specialized parts for it. So the fact that it's here and we can make use of it immediately, I think is a pretty good thing. So for my part, this needs to go forward. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chair, in consideration of a contract for goods with Tillamook Motor Company, Inc. for the vehicle purchase of a 2024 Ford F-250 pickup for the Communications Department, I move approval.
And I will second. And are there any other comments, questions? Not all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay, we'll move on to item 10, consideration of a personnel requisition for the replacement of an existing regular full-time appraiser. Okay, I'll start over. Consideration of a personnel requisition for the replacement of an existing regular full-time appraiser 2 position with a regular full-time appraiser 3 position for the Assessment and Taxation Department. And this is Jody, but before that, I'm going to ask some folks from the assessor's office to speak to this subject and maybe go just a little bit beyond. I happen to be the liaison to this department as well, and I will say that over the past several months, there's been significant changes. The 2 very key people are retiring, one sooner than later and the other at the end of the year. We have a new assessor-elect, and we also lost a key appraiser who had been with the county, I think, for close to 20 years. So I'll start then by asking, Denise is in the background, but I'll go to Cassandra Larson, who is the assessor-elect. And could you review the changes and sort of your plan that you've had over the past number of years on succession and how that's coming true today?
Sure. So yes, my name is Cassandra Larson. I'm currently the Chief Deputy Assessor and Tax Collector and also the Assessor-elect. I'd like to introduce Robert Buckingham. He is our new Chief Appraiser. Rob, would you like to say anything about how long you've been with the county?
Sure. I came to work at the assessor's office in 2007 and obtained my appraiser certification in 2011, and I've been working hard ever since.
So we're very excited that Rob's our new Chief Appraiser. So I actually wrote something out because I wanted to make sure I got this all in for you and I didn't miss anything. So forgive me, but I'm going to read a little bit. So currently the appraisal section consists of 9 appraisers, excluding the Chief Appraiser. 2 out of the 9 positions are property appraiser 3s, while the remaining can be a mix of property appraiser trainees, 1s, or 2s. Our office is undergoing significant changes with retirements, promotions, and the recent resignation of a property appraiser 3 in July. We recently closed the position for this on August 5th. Our Chief Appraiser, Lori McKibben, prepares to retire in a few weeks, and as I said, Rob has been promoted to the position from his original position of property appraiser 2. To address the current needs effectively, we have decided to request an additional property appraiser 3 instead of filling Rob's previous position with a trainee or level 1 or 2. This request does not introduce an additional FTE position, but rather allows having 3 appraiser 3 positions in our office instead of 2. This is a slight restructure. Property appraiser 3s work at an advanced level, conducting various types of property appraisals and tasks, including regular and complex residential properties. They appraise rural, personal, industrial, and commercial properties. They approve or deny property tax exemptions. They compile complex sales ratio reports, implement countywide real market value trending. They conduct documented pre-appraisal setup studies for land and improvements. They specialize in special assessment programs such as farm use and designated forest land. And additionally, they also play a crucial role as lead workers, assisting in the appraisal training and reviewing of work. This appraisal staff is responsible for $12.6 billion in real market value, $6.3 billion in assessed value, which accumulated to $73.4 million in tax revenue last year. I'm confident that this structural change will significantly enhance the department, as this will allow a stronger support system for not only our property appraiser teams, but also for our management team as well.
Thank you. I think that pretty well covers it, and I'll ask Jody in a moment, but just for people who might be listening, every county in America, and I think there are about 3,600, would have something similar to what we have here, which is an appraiser, and then the people who set the value on real property across America, and then the people who collect the taxes that are levied that fund much of local government and some of state government across America. And so we have our group here, and it's been around for a long time, and it's very vital. And you typically don't hear much from them until you don't like your property tax assessment or appraisal, or you can't pay your taxes or something goes wrong, and then they become a rather important part of your life, I would expect. But so I think to explain what the changes have been and who the people are, I think has been very helpful. So let me turn to Jody, because there's probably a technical side to this that she might want to explain to us as well before we consider going forward.
You know, Doug, I couldn't have presented it better. Cassandra laid out the need, the current work structure, and how that would benefit the county from the reclass. So from an HR perspective, we do support this reclass request. And I also want to acknowledge assessment and taxation for the many years of succession planning and creating job families and training programs to continually be able to staff this work that needs to be done at the county. So there's nothing but support from HR on this request.
Thank you. So, Commissioner.
You know, I think we've covered a lot of it. This is a crucial department, so I would like to welcome Rob. It's exciting to have you in your promoted position. Look forward to working with you there. And Cassandra, I think we've already congratulated you on your election, but we'll do it again and again until you're the actual assessor, and then, you know, we'll stop. But anyway, great to have you both with us this morning. This is a crucial department. Without assessment and taxation, we don't get our general fund dollars, and we don't do what we do in so many other arenas. So this is a critical department. And I was on the budget committee when we first started talking about the succession planning. It was before I was a commissioner. And, you know, I was talking with Denise in the hallway this morning about how, you know, succession planning is fabulous, and it really has worked in this case, although it's somewhat circuitous and it moves and you have to adjust. You know, I don't think anybody expected to have a 20-year appraiser also leave in the same year as we were having our assessor and deputy leave. So there's just a lot that's changing, as you've described. And I think, you know, you all know best from the inside, how do we create the most successful department possible? So I'm pleased that you've done that work and bringing it forward to us so that, you know, we have the benefit of your expertise and knowledge as we determine how to move forward. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And I'll just add, as we've all said now, if this department fails, the county fails. So, and lots of other organizations. And I'll just point out, I think there are at least 21 special districts in Tillamook County, and all of them, or nearly all of them, receive tax revenue in one form or another, and that again would pass through your office. So along with the treasurer, then that's how we fund things across Tillamook County, not just at the county. So this is a pretty crucial thing, and I think all the changes that have come upon you, some planned and some not planned, you've handled them well, and you're all set to go. And so we won't need to have you come back before us for a long time till something goes wrong. So do your job.
We think it'll be probably a year before everything's settled again.
I'm sure it will be, and new jobs. But as we heard, you have some very experienced people who can hit the ground running. So
Right.
Thank you for that. So let's consider a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chair, in consideration of a professional requisition for the replacement of an existing regular full-time appraiser 2 position with a regular full-time appraiser 3 position for the Assessment and Taxation Department, I move approval.
And I will second. Are there any additional questions or comments? Don't see any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Motion carries. Thank you both. Thank you, Denise, too, for your work on.
What you're saying, Lois.
All right, down to number 11, consideration of a personal services agreement with TRUP for leave administration services. Jody, would you care to speak to that as well?
Absolutely. In November of 2023, we engaged Troop. Troop is a women-owned business. They have been working on leave administration for some time. They have some proprietary software to help track the many needs of leave that employers work on. So we're tracking FMLA, OFLA, we're tracking paid leave Oregon, and leave of absences. And so when we look at the administration benefit by using technology to help track and Troop to help with some of those heavy lifts, we've been able to free up HR's time to do other projects that are important in the organization. Since the contract that we initially worked on with them, we went live November of 2023. We have actually had 118 cases. Some of those could be simple, bereavement cases. but there are many cases that we have engaged with Troop on. There has been a total of 21,000 hours or equivalent to 10 full-time employees. If you take all of that leave and divide it by 2080 for a full-time employee. So just the volume, I want to be open about why this contract is so important and helping our managers keep track of it. When are they coming back? Do we need a return to work? Do they need additional time? And keeping that ongoing communication going with the managers. So this contract is for another 2-year period. And we hope to continue to work with our employees and Troop to help better understand our leave request process and continue to train our managers on how to administer and refer out when an employee does need leave. I think Paid Leave Oregon is a very important program with the state. So if someone does have a serious health condition, they don't go through an economic issue while taking that time to have that surgery or to care for a very ill family member. But it does create some displacement in the organization and some additional work. And so that's where this Troop contract does help us keep track and keep on top of those dates.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, leaves are very, very legalistic and very, very detailed in what you need to do to track the leaves to determine who qualifies. If you qualify for the federal FMLA, that's different than qualifying for the Oregon Family Leave Act, which is different than qualifying for Paid Leave Oregon, and they all have to play nice together. So it's complex. And so I think having a contractor whose job it is to do this work for us, who has their software to do that, is really important. It protects the county as well as assuring that all employees get the benefits that they are eligible for. So it's an important piece of the work, and it's having a contractor really is, I think, our best path forward. With currently 3 employees in our HR department and hopefully a 4th soon if we're able to fill our vacant position, it's still only 4 people that are managing every aspect of employment for almost 300 county employees. So there's a lot of work that goes through that department. And I think for us to continually be looking for how to work smarter, not harder, and efficiencies, part of that is always looking to say, does it make sense for us to do this with our own staff, or is there a better way? And I think in this case with the Troop contract, we've determined there's a better way to track leave than having somebody in our office try to do that. So I'm definitely in support, and I'm pleased that this is a solution that we implemented and that has worked as intended and is keeping us in compliance and keeping employees supported.
Thank you. Well, I would agree with Commissioner Scar. This is a pretty complex subject, and when you have upwards of 300 employees, things change and records need to be kept and administered properly, and it's hard to do with a relatively small staff. I'm not familiar with that firm, so I looked them up. So I guess my question, Jody, how many firms provide that type of service to employers?
In the small group market, it is less so. There are a number of leave administrators, the standard, there's a couple who generally do short-term disability, long-term disability, and it's bundled in with your disability plan. They generally work with employers upwards of 500 to 1,000. This smaller organization is better equipped to handle such a small group such as ours. Sometimes it becomes cost prohibitive when you're a small group to pay the cost for the disability coverage plus the administration fee. We benefit from our disability insurance being bundled with CIS, and we wouldn't be able to get that large group efficiency by being in CIS and still working with this vendor.
What is the approximate cost of this service annually?
Let me open the
I have
contract.
it in
It
front of me.
is
It's 28, not to exceed $28,000. So it's a monthly $1,075.
Okay.
It's a monthly per employee rate, and I'm sorry, I'm scrolling down to the bottom because I don't want to misquote the number.
Well, I got a sense of it from Commissioner Scar. I don't think you need to go deep into that. I'm just curious what what the professional fee is for their services. And it's one of those things that, A, it has to be done, and B, if we can't do it internally or shouldn't do it internally, then it needs to be done anyway, so you find a firm that can do it. It's really pretty straightforward. So I'm definitely in support of that, simply because we have a legal and I think a statutory obligation to keep track of these things, not to mention the employees need to know, and they depend upon the organization to track these things and provide when it's a benefit that they're entitled to. So I certainly support taking this forward as well. So I think we're ready for a motion unless there's anything else to add.
I think we're ready. There was a
Sean,
hand
did you
raised
have
by
anything
Sean.
you'd wish to add?
So my question was, as it goes from July 1, 2024, it's a 2-year agreement, is that correct? 'Cause
Correct.
it says, okay, so 28,000 over 2 years, that's 14,000 a year to track the amount of leave that we see come through on payroll. It's a good investment.
So the 28 is over 2 years. Okay, thank you. I didn't get that. I was thinking it was 1 year, but okay. All right, now let's
Thank you
do
for
the-
clarifying, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, Mr. Chair, in consideration of a personal services agreement with Troop for Leave Administration Services, I move approval.
I will second. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now down to item 12, consideration of a State Library of Oregon 2025 Ready to Read Project Grant Application. Don Algire's on, I believe. There he is.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
I am pleased to bring before you a ready-to-read grant for $6,650. This is grant money provided by the State Library of Oregon and is distributed to to libraries throughout the state, in our case on a county basis. And that money, we use it to support prizes, to get kids involved in the summer reading program and to reward them for reading at a time where it's critical for them to read, to be able to maintain their skills going into the year ahead. I think we've all seen headlines about, the growing issues around reading and reading comprehension. As a library, we take those issues super seriously. And one of the ways in which we are able to engage on that is to try and help support readers at a young age stay excited about reading. And this grant helps support that. So I'm looking for your approval to receive those funds and apply for that grant. Thank you. I'm glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions?
No questions. You know, the summer reading program is really a fantastic program. My daughter grew up here in Tillamook County reading every summer, and she kept her reading log and went to the events that were held at the library and got, her different prizes, there was a tote bag and anyway, all sorts of fun things throughout the course of her life. And she is an avid reader. In fact, she just texted me yesterday and said, "Mom, I forgot one of my books at home. Can you mail it to me in North Carolina? Because I really need to finish this book." So she's an avid reader. And I do think that the summer program's been a part of that. So I know that we worry a lot about educational loss through the summer months when kids are not in a classroom, when they're not having that consistent encouragement to read, and the summer reading fills that gap. And to your point, we are in an interesting time where post-COVID, there are a lot of challenges for our young people who missed much of that at key developmental points in their life. And so the library is a vital, free community resource where families can go and get that help. So, that's really important. A lot of our families with children, young children particularly, are in the lower slats of income in our community, and a tutor is not something that's probably within their budget, but getting their child to the library, getting their child into the reading program, and having that support is really important. So I think that this is a great grant. I know we've gotten it for many years, and it does support the program, and I'm fully in support.
Well, thank you, and I would agree with what was said. I think reading is so fundamental and basic to how we get along in life. I do have one question. Well, I have two, and one will have to do with something else when we're all done. But my question is, Could you speak to what the library provides for English as a second language, primarily Hispanic folks? And the reason I ask that is I just arranged to have a website for our radio bond effort translated into Spanish, and I found it was pretty darn easy to do and very inexpensive. What programs does the library have for those who don't read English?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. One of our strategic goals is to do a better job of serving Spanish-speaking library users. That is a growing part of the population of Tillamook County, and we want to make sure that we are providing resources for everyone. Recently, we hired in our a Spanish-speaking staff person, bilingual, who is also our programming librarian. His name's Joe. He's fantastic. And they are developing a lot of programming around Spanish speaking for Spanish speaking users, as well as looking at our collection. So we have a collection of materials in Spanish that we provide. And I think we will benefit from having someone who speaks Spanish to evaluate that collection and start to update it. So we're looking forward to that. He's already dug into that work. And then we're looking at ways in which we can make sure that it is easier to navigate our library in Tillamook as well as elsewhere. We're thinking about signage over time and how we can be more inclusive in terms of just navigating the library generally. We also have digital resources that are available. So any of the materials that you can check out online through Hoopla or through the Libby app, there are selections there that are in Spanish language as well. And so those are some of the ways we're out there. We're also just trying to do outreach and make sure that we're engaging with communities where they are, not just those folks who wander into the library. So it's been really great to have someone who can go along with the bookmobile and has gone into communities and been able to connect with kids about the summer reading program. I know that a big focus for us going into next year's summer reading program, which I think we're coming up on time where we'll start to plan for next year's summer reading program beyond just this grant. And one of the focuses for us is going to be very much trying to make sure that the program has everything in translation. So I'm glad to answer if there's a more specific question there, but it's a general overview.
Well, that's a good review. Thank you, Commissioner. Did you have any questions on that?
No, I don't. I'm happy to hear that we are moving to translation. I know that as a county, it's one of the areas that we really need to be looking at, is how are we assuring that we are serving the full breadth of our community. And at this point, I think our Latinx or Hispanic community per census is somewhere around 13 to 15%, but we know from our school numbers that there's at least 30 to 40% in our schools. So I think that we need to make sure we're paying attention to that. We had you all had a good conversation while I was on vacation at the board briefing, looking at the Equal Opportunity Employment Plan related to what are the numbers in our community of non-English speakers, and are we appropriately serving that population? So I appreciate that the library is moving forward. I know that the community health centers have done a great amount of work and are moving forward in that arena. So many of our special revenue funds are in a position and moving forward with that, but we really need to, as a complete county, be looking at that body of work.
Thank you. Well, the reason I asked the question is in preparing a website in the effort to get some information out about our radio bond, I made arrangements to have that translated into Spanish, and I found out it is incredibly simple. There are services, and one click and the entire website goes into another language, and the total cost is $17 a month. So I think that's a place where electronics have certainly helped. It's quite literally, it's one click, and the entire website then is in Spanish, and I expect it could be put in a bunch of other languages as well. But to serve our population here, we'll publish that website with that feature on it. So thank you for that. So good information. I think we need to remember there are lots of folks from lots of places that speak different languages right here among us.
Very true.
So let's consider a motion then for the library.
Okay, Mr. Chair, in consideration of a State Library of Oregon 2025 Ready to Read project grant application, I move approval.
And I will second. Any further questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion
Thank you.
carries. Okay, now don't go away. I have another question.
I'm ready.
I have on my calendar something tonight that I'm not sure I'll be able to make it, but you started a program some months ago about having community conversations that are done in an effort to bring, let's say, diverging viewpoints together, and I think you have one tonight. Could you speak to that a little bit and let people know what's up?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Commissioner Olson, I appreciated you coming to the very first one of these, the community conversation around taxes. Tonight, we are having that conversation around tourism. And it's now called Let's Talk About is the name of the series. So tonight's Let's Talk About Tourism. And the goal of the program is to get people into spaces together to talk about issues in a mediated way where there can be conversation. It's not ending, the goal is not to come to consensus or build a one solid belief, but instead for neighbors to be able to hear each other and understand the different perspectives that build people's opinions and beliefs, so that we are hopefully building respect within our community. I think we've all had the experience of the discussions that can happen online, and however well-intended some of those conversations start out, it is really difficult for people, I think, to engage in ways that are human online and allow for space and growth and grace and understanding. And I think those are all part of building a healthy and vibrant community. So this is a small way in which we hope to build some space for that and allow people to have some conversations. We're going to be doing these on a quarterly basis throughout the year, and we will have refreshments there. I think it will be a nice time. I'll be there tonight for this conversation, and I invite people to join us. We do have we have asked people to sign up, and so you can just call into the library. We still have spots available for tonight's program, and we're looking forward to future programs. If folks have ideas of things they would like us to have conversations about, we would love to hear that and be able to develop our muscle around having civil conversations about the issues that are out there. I will just note in our last conversation that one of the things I walked away with was feeling a stronger bond with everyone in the room. And it was interesting to think about building that sort of bond through differences of opinion as opposed to agreement. So, thank you.
Thank you. It's interesting you chose the middle of the Democratic National Convention to have this meeting. I don't know if that was coincidental or not, but be that as it may. Well, thank you. I hope you have a few people show up tonight. How many have signed up so far? Do you know offhand?
I believe we have 7 or 8 signed up so far, and sometimes more people show up than who sign up as well. So we'll see.
Well, that sounds like enough for a good conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's.
Dawn has her hand up.
I beg your pardon, Sean, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Don if he had reached out to Nan Devlin at TCVA as far as the tourism and if she was going to be there and any input she had.
Nan is on the library board, and she and I have been in conversation, but I'm not sure if she's going to be there tonight or not.
Okay. I was just wondering if you'd reached out to her or not. She's very helpful in all the tourism stuff.
Yeah, no, she's fabulous.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you. Let's go down to next item, which is consideration of an out-of-state travel request for Rachel Haggerty to attend the 2024 ICMA, I think that's International City Management Association Conference in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from 9/20/24 to 9/25/2024.
Thank you,
So-
Commissioner Olson. That's,
Yes,
that's
go
correct.
ahead.
So Rich will be attending the annual ICMA, the International City County Management Association Conference in Pittsburgh in September. This is an annual conference for local government managers and professionals and those working in the public sector, administration, professional development. So Rachel has been a member of the ICMA for, I think, the last 4 or 5 years. And she just attended the conference in the last 4 or 5 years also. So this travel was included and approved in our 24-25 BOCC budget, and we're looking for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I think, we talk about this every time we have a travel request for out of state, and we talk about how important it is to stay abreast of what are best practices in the industry. And I know from talking with Rachel that this is a conference where she learns a great deal about what different counties and cities are doing, how is government addressing the issues of the day and the concerns and the challenges. So I think, this is a really good one for her to attend. The other thing I would share with the public is we went through a process this year in the Commissioner's office, really looking at our travel and determining, where are the most important places to be. And we provided for each of us to choose a conference that we felt was important to our work. And this is the one that Rachel chose. So I think it is the right place to be. And I look forward to hearing from her after this conference to see what it is that we can learn and how we can be better at what we do in providing our services through learning from our peers.
That's correct. Thank you. And I know Rachel's pretty excited this year because one of the certification courses that she signed up for is for strategic planning session. So that's right. The timing is perfect.
Yes.
It is indeed. Well, I also support that because simply it's a big wide world and lots of people have lots of ideas that need to be shared. And in the public sector, you're not fiercely competitive because you basically have your area, your district, your county, your city, or whatever. And to the extent you can share ideas, I think that's very productive and that serves the public interest. And I've attended a number of these, not this particular one, but others similar over the years. And I've learned also you learn a whole lot, you can learn as much in the lunchroom when you're having lunch or dinners together, or even just a coffee break or something like that. You'll find out that what you're working on, someone else has been working on it longer, and they may have some solutions, so it's a good thing. I also did a little research this morning, found that the Pittsburgh Steelers will be playing in town that week, so I want to be sure Rachel is aware of that.
I heard know that, yeah.
I don't know if she's a football fan, but they have a home game that week, and so maybe if there's a 3 or 4 hour break, she could find her way over to the stadium. But
I think
we'll
she's a
see.
football fan, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll tell her when she gets back from her vacation.
Okay.
All right, so I think we're ready for a motion on that.
All right, Mr. Chair, in consideration of an out-of-state travel request for Rachel Haggerty to attend the 2024 ICMA conference in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania from 9/20/2024 to 9/25/2024, I move approval.
I will second. Any further discussions, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, board concerns. If we have anything we'd like to take up at this time that's not on the agenda, Commissioner?
I do not, thank you.
Well, I have only one item, and it will be relative to our radio bond that is now official. It has a ballot title. It has a ballot number, 29-180, and it will be on the ballot in November before the voters, asking for support of a $24.4 million bond measure to basically replace the entire public safety radio system across Tillamook County. That would include all the police, the sheriff's office, fire departments, and the ambulance service, as well as some public works and our PUD fleet of trucks that services our electric grid. And the reason I wanted to mention that is you will be, possibly some of you will be receiving a request to appear before your groups, that several of us will be out with a video and some material talking about this and answering questions. And we're going to try to go to all the cities and some of the service clubs like Kiwanis and Rotary and so on, and other public agencies, including school boards And we'll appear and we'll either invite ourselves or ask you to approve us for a few minutes on your agenda under the public input side, or maybe as a specified item, and simply present what is going to be before the voters and answer questions, because it's one of the ways that we can get truthful, accurate, and timely information before the voters. So that effort will be underway, and so you may get an email or a call and asking if one of us, and there'll be several, it would be myself and Eric Swanson from the library, or not the library, the hospital, and just had a library show. And also the sheriff will be among those who would appear before the groups, and several others. Tim Carpenter, retired fire chief, who has years and years of experience being on the front line. So we'll be talking about those things and the cost and the impact to taxpayers, and answering a whole lot of questions. So I'll just put that out in the public, that if you belong to one of those groups or you attend those meetings, you'll probably hear from one or more of us over the next couple of months. So with that, I'll make a last call for anything else to come before the commission today. Nothing today.
Nope.
All right, then we will adjourn this meeting at 10:04 a.m. Guess I should have read the last part here.
Oh, your announcements?
We already,
On our website.
yeah. Too late.